So, hello everybody. Let's discuss some implications of what was of this debacle, yesterday's debacle in the Oval Office. Because before these dramatic events at the White House, two significant pieces of news already emerged, but they were quickly brushed aside because everybody awaited the results, the outcome of the meeting between Trump and Zelensky, and they were, this news were just several hours before the meeting. So everybody was waiting for the meeting, and these news were a bit pushed aside or pushed to the backstage. The first piece of news was that it was revealed that after his visit to Washington, Zelensky would travel to London, where Keir Starmer is set to organize together over 20 leaders from allied countries. Interestingly, Turkey will also be present at this high-level meeting. And it is no coincidence that this meeting was scheduled less than 48 hours after the anticipated Washington talks, because until yesterday, the general tone surrounding this London summit, what they will be deciding there, was that they were waiting. They were waiting to see what would Ukraine decide with in these talks with Trump, because visits from Macron and from Starmer had yielded no tangible results. Visits to Washington and their meetings one after another with Trump, because neither was able to persuade Trump to provide security guarantees for a peacekeeping mission. What would happen if, Europe is providing peacekeepers, Russia attacks them? What would happen? What kind of security guarantees for peacekeeping missions? None. They're not covered by anything. And they even couldn't effectively communicate the actual contributions that were made by their countries and by United States. This breakdown of who contributed how much, because Trump was always saying that, the United States is having the most of has provided the lion's share of the aid, and he was politely but firmly corrected by Macron. And you see that while Macron was speaking, telling his point of view to the press, Trump was making faces, saying like, no, just, devaluating everything that Macron was saying, showing that he considers that what Macron was saying was bullshit. Okay? So it was just disgusting. Again, really, really childish behavior from the United States president. And I'm not, we should expect this after all. And, these visits from Macron and Starmer were essentially temperature checks. They were they were checking the temperature in the room, and the temperature was below freezing. Okay? So the underlying message to Zelensky and to Ukraine was clear. What is your decision? And they were waiting the answer, wanted to receive an answer from Ukraine that if Ukraine pursues the independent European Ukrainian path with all its risk, or will Ukraine align with American Moscow track, which also has its own risk? So which way Ukraine will go, which path Ukraine takes. And we have seen that, no, we are not going American Moscow track. Okay? When Trump said, you have no cards. He was wrong. We will discuss the broader picture of Ukraine's card another time, but the crucial move that was already in play, because Kallas announced just before the Washington meeting, and Kallas is the head of European Union diplomacy. She confirmed that on March 6th, the largest military aid package for Ukraine is being prepared for announcement on March 6th. This is one that was previously estimated for 5, then for 10, then for 20, and even for 30 billion. And this package will consist of individual contributions from various nations. It is not a collective European Union package, and it means that there is no need for unanimous approval, and it cannot be blocked by Hungary or by Slovakia. And this also explains why the total amount kept growing, because more nations disclosed their contribution and some increased. And it won't be not just a single lump sum or single one big package for 30 or 40 millions, but it will be an extended framework for ongoing aid, just some comprehensive military support program delivered over some length of time. And NATO had a commitment to ensure at least 40 billion in direct military aid for Ukraine, but it was then it was including United States commitments. So US wanted Europe to pay. Europe is willing to pay, but in reality, White House doesn't care and was deliberately ignoring the contribution of Europe, deliberately ignoring this reality. And as a result, yesterday, we had a display of European solidarity. Ukraine is not alone, and it may have appeared chaotic. What is this of chaotic? Chaotic. Yeah. But it was still a response to the fact that many European and non-European leaders had finally received the answer they had been waiting for from both Ukraine and from US, that Ukraine is with Europe and the United States are with Russia. It was clearly demonstrated yesterday during this unfortunate press conference. Also, yesterday, Trump made one of his greatest political mistakes, both domestically and internationally. And the consequence of this mistake can be summed by a single quote from European diplomatic leader Kallas. The free world needs a new leader. So, meaning that the United States are no more leader of the free world. It cannot be if it sides with Putin. An open statement of this magnitude from Europe marks the end of United States global leadership. So, what are the implications? There will be consequences, and yes, things will become more difficult. If Europe can fully compensate for the loss of US financial and military assistance, because Europe has money and Europe has quite a lot of capacity to produce some military hardware, but then there are 3 points that we received from United States that can be quite difficult to substitute. It is intelligence sharing, it is missiles for our air defense, and spare parts for United States supplied weapons, and enforcement of sanctions to Russia. So, first, intelligence sharing. With Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth positioned at the top of US defense intelligence hierarchy, what kind of intelligence exchange could even be discussed. Even if yesterday's events had played out differently, the situation would remain the same. Key US allies have already limited their intelligence sharing with the United States due to concerns over leaks. And this trend is likely to continue, further complicating cooperation. Air defense missiles, fortunately, we don't have only Patriots, we have some other systems as well. And quite a lot of these missiles are under Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. So we plan to receive it. There are some orders placed for United States defense companies that they are going to fulfill during some years in future, and we are going to receive this. We should be receiving it. But halting this funding under these programs, it would have additional consequences for the White House. Blocking missile deliveries for the European supplied Patriot systems that are used in Ukraine would hurt US defense contract in Europe. The Pentagon might want to check with Swiss defense companies how that kind of approach worked for them, because they were adamant. I mean, what a bullshit. I mean, you are supplying weapons, but you don't allow to use them in case of conflict, or to... You idiots are not in the wrong line of business then. Weapons are to be used, otherwise they are just useless. Okay? And such move, I mean, the refusal to supply missiles to Ukraine, which are already the money for them are already allocated in U.S. Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. These funds are already allocated for the production of missiles over some years in the future. And if you halt this, such a move would only accelerate what French and Italian defense developers have long been hoping for. It will accelerate a push in Europe to replace US air defense systems with European alternatives, which are already existing and they are just as effective. For example, SAMT, or how it is called, I mean, Italian-French air defense system, a direct competitor for Patriot missiles. We have 2 such systems in Ukraine, and we can be sure that we will receive missiles for them. So Trump has multiple ways to try and to disrupt aid, but none of them are legally airtight, thanks to safeguards that were placed by Biden. And any such attempt would spark high-level scandals, which would undoubtedly have widespread consequences for Trump himself. And the last point is sanctions. Have you noticed that after every Trump remark about sanctions, Europe immediately states that it has no plans to weaken sanctions or to lift them altogether? That's because while Trump could hypothetically loosen sanctions, doing so without a coordinated position with Europe would trigger a massive political scandal. US committed to these sanctions as a nation, and fulfilling those commitments, national commitments, does not depend on who holds the presidency. Okay? And plus, Trump would need to sell something in exchange for lifting sanctions. His plan was separatist agreement with Moscow. I mean, just to make Ukraine to accept this very, very unfair plan from Moscow. I mean, Putin's plan that he was announced on June 14th of last year, that I just don't repeat it, but it's really, it is not, nobody should agree to such plan. Okay, but however, at this point, this agreement would be completely rejected by both Ukraine and Europe. So he has no, I mean, he can, of course, he can do anything, but there will be a pushback and there will be reaction for that. Okay, thank you for watching, have a nice day. Слава Україні!